We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis in Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 13b. The Gemara continues, Lo kasha, it's not difficult. Ha da'amar ha karban. In one case, we're talking about where the person says ha karban, the ha da'amar ha karban. In the other case, we're talking about ha karban. This was a question within Rabbi Meir, a contradiction. It seems as though from our Mishnah that ha karban creates an isser, but ha karban doesn't do anything. And so the Gemara is saying there's a distinction between the two. Ha karban does in fact create the isser, but when you say ha karban, it does not. My time, what's the reason? Chaye karban ka'amar, because when you say ha karban, so then it's just like saying by the life of the karban, and that is not the proper formulation of a neder. And the Gemara says katani la karban lo ochelach. It says that if you say that it should be for a karban that which I do not eat of yours, Rabbi Meir oser. Rabbi Meir says it's oser. Now the problem over here is that the simple explanation is that which I do not eat is la karban, and that which I do eat, and at most you can have a situation of mechlal la'avat hashomeyahin. And so the Gemara says, "V'halesle Rabbi Meir mechlal la'avat hashomeyahin," but Rabbi Meir doesn't even hold of mechlal la'avat hashomeyahin. Meaning, Rabbi Meir says you cannot derive any isser by implication, and certainly the simple explanation of la karban lo ochelach does not imply any kind of isser, because you're saying that which I don't eat is going to be a karban, and so therefore, how is it that Rabbi Meir says aser in this case? And this we have quoted before. The Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba says, "Nasa ka'omer la karban yehei." The way Rabbi Meir understands this phrase is that the person is looking at the food and saying, this should be a karban, kama, lefikach lo ochelach, and therefore, I'm not going to eat that which is yours, so therefore it is two separate statements that essentially mean the same thing, and they both create an isser. The Gemara continues with the Mishnah, ha'omer l'chaveru, if someone says to his friend, konem pi medaber imach, a konem from my mouth speaking with you, or yadi osa imach, or my hands doing work with you, or raglaim halechas imach, or my feet walking with you, asr, all of those formulations create an isser, and he cannot speak with him, or he cannot do work with him, or he cannot walk with him. And the Gemara says, Uraminu, we have the following contradiction to the Mishnah from a Brisa. The Brisa says, Chomer b'shvuos mi b'nedarim u'v'nedarim mi b'shvuos. There are stringencies by a shvua over nedarim, and there are stringencies that nedarim have over shavuos. And the Brisa explains, Chomer b'nedarim, what is a stringency by nedarim? Sha'nedarim cholin ala mitzvah kibirashos, because a neder can be chal on a mitzvah, just like it can be chal on something that is voluntary. Masha ein kein b'shvuos, that's not true by a shvua. A shvua cannot be chal by a mitzvah. And the Mefarish over here explains, Cholin ala mitzvah kibirashos, a neder can be chal even on a mitzvah. Shemamar konim shani osa sukkah, konim shani miniach tefillin. Let's say a person makes a neder not to build a sukkah, not to put on tefillin. Chol olav ha-neder, the neder will take effect. V'yimasan, if he goes ahead and he does the mitzvah, kamle v'bal yachel, he actually does transgress the isser of not fulfilling his word. Masha'ein kain b'shvua, that's not true by a shvua. She'ein nishboin levatelas ha-mitzvahs. A person can't make a shvua to nullify the mitzvahs. To mushba v'yomed me'ar Sinai, because there's already a shvua on him from Ar Sinai, l'kaiman, to fulfill the mitzvahs. U'l'hachi lo chol ha-shvua, therefore the shvua is not chal. De'ein shvua chol al shvua, because an oath cannot be chal on an oath. And the Brisa continues, v'chomer b'shvuos, and there's a stringency by shvuos, sha'shvuos cholos al davar sheyesh bo mamish v'she'ein bo mamish, because shvuos are chal on something that has substance and something that does not have substance. Masha'ein kein b'nedarim, that's true by nedarim, and the Mefarish over here says, Masha'ein kein b'nedarim, de'ein cholin al davar she'ein bo mamish, a neder cannot be chal on something that doesn't have substance. Kagon dibor, for example, speech, she'ein bo mamish, that has no substance. V'amai katani asr, and that's the problem. Why does it say in our Mishnah that it's asr, when a person makes a konim not to speak with a certain person that doesn't have any substance? And didn't we say that a neder cannot be chal on something that has no substance? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, our Mishnah is talking, Ba'omer yeyoser pi lidiburai, yodai l'maseihem, raglai lihiluchon. The case in our Mishnah is when the person says, my mouth should be forbidden as far as speech is concerned. My hands should be forbidden as far as doing work is concerned. My legs should be forbidden as far as walking together with this person is concerned, and therefore it is something that has substance. The neder is going on the mouth, or it's going on the hands, or it's going on the feet. The Ekonami, the Gemara says, we have a proof also from the Mishnah itself, the Katani, because the Mishnah says, Pi medaber imach, it says, my mouth, which speaks with you. V'lo Katani sha'ani medaber imach, it doesn't say that I am speaking with you. You see that the neder is going on the mouth. Hadron aloch kol kinuye, this is the end of the first parak of Mesechet Nedarim. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and please take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the second parak of Mesechet Nedarim. And the Mishnah says, Ve'elu mutar, and the following formulations of Nedarim are mutar, they do not create an isser. Chulin sha'ochelach, if the person says the food that I eat of yours is like chulin, so chulin is something that is permitted. Kivisar chazir, ka'avodas kochavim, ka'orus levuvin, kinevelos utrefos, kishkatzim uramosim, kechalas aron v'chitrumoso. All of these cases, he says that this item is going to be like the meat of the chazer, of the pig, or like avodah zara, or oros levuvin, that also is hides that have to do with avodah zara, where the hearts have been removed. Nevelos, trefos, shkatzim uramosim, chala, truma, all of these things are prohibited, but they're not prohibited by a neder. They're not a davar hanoder, they're a davar ha'aser. And the halach is that if you're doing tfisa, if you're trying to say such an item should be like such an item, that item that you're comparing it to has to be a davar hanoder in order to create the isser. If it's a davar ha'aser, it will not create the isser, and that's why the Mishnah says mutter. All of these cases are mutter. Ha'omer li'ishto hareat alai ki'imo. Let's say a person says to his wife, you are forbidden to me like my mother is forbidden to me. So that also, it's a davar ha'aser. It really shouldn't create an isser. However, poschen lo Pesach, we try to find the Pesach, we try to find some opening to undo the neder, mimakam acher, from some other source. Why? Shelo yakal rosho lekach, so that he shouldn't treat nedarim lightly, so we treat it like a real neder in that situation, even though really it should not be an effective neder. And the Mefarish says, Ve'elu mutar and delo chashivi neder, all of these cases are not considered to be a neder. Kechalas aron uchutrumaso mutar lechol imo. It says, like chala, like truma, he is mutar to eat with him. It's not considered an effective neder. It doesn't create a prohibition. The chol hani lav davar hanader hein, like we said, all of these items are not things which are prohibited through a neder. Ela davar ha'asr, the memela mitzri below neder. These are things that are asr even without a neder. V'yein nodrim davar asr. You can't make a neder, try to attach it, try to use something that's asr. You have to use, again, like we said, a davar hanoder. And the Gemara says, Taima de Amar Chulin Sha'ochelach. The reason why over here it's mutter is because he said Chulin, that which I eat of yours is Chulin. Ha'amar La Chulin Sha'ochelach. But if the person would say La Chulin Sha'ochelach, Mashma Lo La Chulin Lahave Ela Karban, that would imply that which I eat of yours is not Chulin, but it is a Karban. It would imply an Isser, and therefore it would be Asr. And the Gemara says, Mani Masnisin, if that's the case, who's the author of the Mishnah? Rabbi Meir, if you're going to say it's Rabbi Meir, Halesle Michlal, he doesn't hold of this idea that you can create the Isser based on an implication. And the Mefarish says, Rabbi Meir doesn't hold to the principle of Mechlal Lav Atashomein. We don't say that if he says La Chulin, we draw the inference that rather it should be a carbon. That would be drawing the inference of the positive from the negative, which according to Rabbi Meir we do not do. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yudalid Amud Aleph.